is to take the hiccup note and play it here and then drop an octave. So here we're going C to G, we're still going C to G, but we're also going to the G below.
Can you do that one octave up, just to make sure we get that on camera here? Okay. So that, no, so those are just octaves. The G's are the octaves and moving back to the C. Okay.
Right. So you think of
moving
bolero.
It to F, yeah, moving it to F would be exactly the same thing, right?
Right. One thing that's a little different is we're used to putting our pinky on the root.
Yes.
In order to play this pattern, we have to put one of our middle fingers on the root.
Right.
So that our pinky's available to go down.
Okay. You said that's like bolero.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. You have to...
So the thing that I like to do, if you listen to Brazilian music, there's a great big drum, I'm not sure what they call it, a big tom, that they play usually on 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, big 3. So to simulate that, and again, make the smoke and mirrors approach to simulating a Latin orchestra, I like to double my octave so that it's louder on the 5th and the root is quieter. So it goes like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. So it gives it that weight.
Okay.
Here's how it sounds with the tune. So it's a back, it's an inside-out rhythm there.
That's great.
Next thing we can do to enhance the tune, now that we have a bass line and melody, if I'm only playing the melody with one finger, I'm wasting a lot of my hand here.
Right, we talk about that a lot, okay.
So I may as well play some notes down in here below it. What notes would be appropriate would be, of course, the notes that are in the chord.
Right. So now this is kind of a special case, too. I think we talk about that sometimes, Bradley, that people say, well, gee, you're not Scott, you're just not playing a single note melody line all the time. I see you playing multiple notes. You know, what kind of rocket science do you have to go through to figure those out? And kind of our comeback is always, hey, it is a case of having some extra fingers. Let's just double some of the chord tones.
That's right.
But this is kind of a special case of that because you're not really playing a chord with your left hand. You're playing this rhythmic pattern.
Right,
So
I got a bass line that's pretty empty. I wish I could do this. And this.
Yeah.
But I only have 2 hands.
Right.
So I have to solve that another way. And the way I'm going to solve it is to put some chord tones in the bottom of my right hand and keep this bass line.
Okay.
So instead of...
Now you're always leaving the melody on top, right?
That's right.
I mean,
the pinky's
that's a hard, fast rule. You've got to have that melody note, the highest note that you're hearing, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, our ear just tends to hear the top as the melody.
Okay.
All right, now...
What about the opportunity, and maybe this is getting too complex, the opportunity of playing the melody line and then in some space, you know, instead of, typically we would say hit a root, come up and hit a chord with our left hand. How about keeping the rhythmic thing happening in the left, doing melody but coming down and doing some comping with a chord?
I like these challenges.
Yeah, I'm going to put the hammer down here, but no, but... Now, if you weren't doing that, that's right, but if you weren't doing that so quickly, I mean, you gave yourself some heat by doing it at a pretty good tempo. If you slow that down, or maybe some slower Latin tunes or whatever, you could feasibly do that, get some melody, or if it's a melody that's not quite so busy, come down.
That's right.
Get the advantage of what you're talking about to do what
Fill
you
in
do.
the hole.
It's really like accompanying yourself. It's like what you would do as an accompanist for a soloist.
That's right.
And still kind of soloing separately instead of doing them together, so.
That's right.
Whatever.
Well, let's talk about after we would play the tune, and maybe we even play the tune twice so that people can enjoy the melody. It's time to do some improvisation and more simulation of that Latin orchestra.
Okay.
And I want to show you a technique that piano players use in Latin styles that they call a montuno.
Okay.
It's kind of a Latin cliche. You recognize it right away. Now, let me just show you how it sounds first.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, you hear that all the time.
So we can talk about how to make that.
Let's do it. Let's steal that. How do you do that? How do you figure it out?
If we think about this first chord, it's a C minor 7, so it has the notes C, E flat, G, and B flat.
Okay.
We're going to take that 7th note, 1, 3, 5, and 7, and we're just going to play it down here on the bottom instead
So you're
of on
taking
top.
the top note out of the 4 notes and playing it on the bottom instead of the top.
There
so you're
it
just
is.
inverting it by taking the top note and putting it on the lows.
So here's my inversion.
Okay.
To make life simple, I'm not even going to play the root.
Okay.
I don't want to use that many fingers up, and the root's down here anyway.
Okay.
Okay? Now, all I'm going to do is rock this note between the 7 and the note just below it.
Okay.
And
so in this case, you're moving your thumb from the B flat down to that A.
So it would sound like this. And And in between that, I'm going to play the rest of this chord, which is the E flat G. Going back to original chord,
Okay.
there's still there it is.
Okay.
Mix those together, I have a nice little rocking pattern. Add my bass line. When the chord changes, I just do the same thing. Here's the F minor 7 chord, put the top note on the bottom and rock it to the note beside it.
That's great.
Okay?
Never
Now,
knew how to do that. That's great. So you're taking the minor chord, inverting it so that the top note's on the bottom, and then just rocking.
what I mean by rocking is the hands
Yeah.
actually moving back and forth.
Sure.
Now,
Thumbs playing, top 2 notes are playing in the other one. Okay.
once you understand that, we call this a 7-6, moving back and forth between the 7 and the 6. There's a few things we can do to enhance that.
Okay.
One thing we can do, just like an arpeggio, where we have like a C chord, we can play the chord like this, or arpeggiate it. We're going to arpeggiate or break up the chord so it sounds instead of, and now we have, and as long as we have that going on, why not bring out this nice melody an octave above?
Ooh, okay.
Now we have, so we have a big, rich sound.
Okay, so you're playing the octave on what you were just playing the thumb on. You're also playing that octave, and then the 2 middle notes are just maintaining that rhythm
That's
pattern.
right. Now, if I were with a whole orchestra here, I would do that in over 3 octaves. You've always heard that a lot in Latin music a lot.
Sure.
There's one more trick we can do. Sometimes when we have chords that are close together, in this song there's a D minor 7 flat 5 chord, big name, going to a G7, we can come down from the root chromatically. So instead of, we can do this, which we talked about and which works fine. But since these chords are close together, I'm going to start on the root and come down chromatically. It sounds like this.
Okay.
And I can spread that up to an octave.
Okay.
It's just a matter of taste. It's just a question of earring it out. These are just little hints rather than rules.
Sure. I tell you, the real thing that makes that Montuno?
Yes.
Yeah, sound is that oop bop oop bop oop.
That's
bop,
right.
Oop oop bop. It's that rhythmic, that melodic and rhythmic thing of down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
That's
down,
right. Yeah,
up,
the rhythm is huge in this style. The other thing you can do is as the song gets going, because again we're trying to simulate that full rich orchestra, but also maybe have some fun and improvise.
Sure.
Is that we can chain these together to make it a kind of mixture of passing notes or solo notes in between these little Latin cliches. Let me give you an example. If I'm going to go from here, and the next chord is here,
Right.
why not just kind of hook those up?
Okay, whatever. So you're really just running in octaves trying to get to that next location.
Right.
It's kind of the right-hand version of walking the
I was
bass
just gonna
line.
say, that's right.
Trying to get yourself to that next spot in kind of a chromatic way or with notes close to each other.
Right. And
Great.
then the other thing you can do is just throw them in now and then. What you were saying earlier about filling in the melody. Suppose I have a right-hand improvised melody that has a hole in it. I can come down here and grab a little bit of that. So when my right hand's not busy here, I can fill up the middle.
I think improvising, when I saw you just do that, it makes you think of trying to improvise, almost breathing. It's like, try to improvise like a singer would sing, so at some point you got to take a breath. You'd be playing a melodic line, you get to the point where you take the breath and hang for a second. That's when you can come down, fill in little things, come back, take a deep breath, start back in your melodic, ideas, whatever you're doing that way. On that topic, take that one step further. Let's talk just a second on this type of thing with Latin. If you were just accompanying someone, a soloist, or if you were singing or something else, any ideas there? I want to attach a rhythm to your right hand along with this bass line we've been using.
Okay. So let's assume I have no bass player.
Yes.
But I'm working with a trumpet or a sax or a singer.
Right.
They're covering the melody. That frees me up to do some nice things in my hand down here.
I want to do some rhythmically accurate things.
One thing I can do is just simply that cliche. While they're doing that.
Right. Someone else is singing or playing it.
But there's some others. One of them is called a clave pattern. It's a da,
Right.
Okay?
So that's really, is that safe to call that comping in a Latin style?
That's right.
And we use the term comping sometimes, meaning just playing chords in some rhythmic pattern. You're not necessarily changing the chord every time. You're just not holding it down. You're
Right.
playing a rhythmic pattern.
Putting some little bit of groove to
which
it.
is what we call comping.
If somebody else were playing the bass for me, I could do a pattern maybe something like this. So what I can do, that's kind of a merengue pattern. Sometimes I think of Santana, that sound.
Okay.
I can do this with one hand.
Ah, okay.
We're using the rocking again. So the original one is...
Okay.
So let's put that all together.
Cool. Okay.
Okay?
Well, listen, let's, yeah, we need to hear this whole thing now and try to see if we can steal some of these visual things we've been saying. We'll hear some left-hand stuff. We'll hear some of this right-hand stuff, some filling in of chord tones, probably some of that pattern and all that. Let's hear you play the tune.
Okay, I'll try to keep enough of the bass, the
Blue
chords,
Bossa.
keep it going. I'll do a little introduction here.
Okay. Cha-cha-cha. That's great. Thanks, Bradley.
You're welcome.
That was a great rendition.
The Piano Guy is made possible in part